a clue what environmental issues were about in those days. Now, 50 years later, of course, that has all changed enormously, and all sectors of society, construction, transportation, agriculture, energy, government, corporations, individuals, we now, I think, all have to reassess the way that we live and the way that we behave and the way that we do business. This is a big challenge. And one thing, Karsten, I don't agree with you. It's not going to be easy to be deep green. I think it's going to be easy to do a lot of take the low-hanging fruit, as they say, because we've been so inefficient in the past. But it's not going to be easy in the long run. What I would like to do is to provide you with the big picture, the context within which we as individuals in society in all areas have to reassess our lives and our way of doing business. In March of next year, I'm going to reach my 75th birthday. And when you get to be that old, you know you're in the last part of your life. I tell people, I'm in the death zone. There's nothing morbid about saying that. Believe it or not, every one of you is going to die. It's just that I'm a hell of a lot closer to it than you are. But I believe that we all, as elders, have to face the fact that we are at the end of our lives and then get on with the most important responsibility that we have. You see, I believe it is our duty as elders to reflect back over a life, to try to sift out of that life, what the hell have I learned? Is there anything that's worth retaining and trying to pass on as a legacy to coming generations? A few months ago, a reporter asked me, what do you hope people will say about you after you're gone? And I was stunned by the question. I said, after I'm dead, I don't give a shit what people say about me. I'm going to be dead. But it would be nice if an idea or two that I had, reflecting back on my lives, was still reverberating through other people as they contemplated some of the lessons that I've learned. So while I'm still alive, I can offer a gift that you can be absolutely sure has no hidden agenda of a drive for celebrity or money or power. I give you the truth that comes from my heart. And I hope in giving you my bit of legacy, it will prompt all of you, even the young people here today, to reflect back on what is life all about? What matters most to me? What brings me joy and happiness? What will I want my legacy to be when I get to be as old as David Suzuki? I spent 30 years of my life as a geneticist. And to me, one of the most astounding developments of the 20th century was the accumulation of tools and abilities to manipulate DNA, the genetic material. And scientists have used those tools to manipulate DNA in very exquisite and elegant ways to track the movement of human beings over time. And all of the trails lead back to Africa 150,000 years ago. I can't wait to be asked to give a lecture to the Ku Klux Klan, and I'm going to tell these pointy-headed characters, we're all Africans, because that's where our species was born. Try to imagine what the world was like when we first appeared on Earth. There were still woolly mammoths on the planet, saber-toothed tigers, giant sloths and moa birds. The world was a very different place. And if we were able to invent a time machine to go back in time and travel back 150,000 years and park above the Rift Valley in Africa and look down, we would see animals in abundance and variety beyond anything that we could see in the Serengeti today. And we'd have to look very hard to spot those funny-looking two-legged furless apes. And that was us. Now, thinking of it in that context, you got to admit, we weren't very impressive. I'm sure no other species looked at us and went, man, watch out for those naked apes. They're going to take over the planet. I mean, what did we have going for us? There weren't very many of us. We weren't very big. We weren't very fast. An elephant can outrun the fastest human on earth. We weren't very strong. A chimpanzee weighing 100 pounds could whip my ass, probably every one of you. And look how many of us are wearing glasses. I mean, we weren't endowed with special senses. I try to imagine myself swinging through the jungles without my glasses and trying to find the next vine. I'd never make it. I mean, what did we have going for us? Well, of course, the answer was our secret. Our secret to success was invisible. It was the 2-kilogram organ buried deep in our skulls. It was the human brain that was our big advantage. That brain endowed us with a massive memory. No other mammal on earth has the memory capacity of a human brain. We were curious and we were inventive. And those qualities of memory, curiosity, and inventiveness more than compensated for our lack of physical and sensory ability. That brain remembered from experience. It learned by observation and trial and error. It invented new ideas or concepts and then tried them out. That brain was aware of itself, self-conscious, as no other animal is. Aware of itself in space and time. And that brain allowed us to dream of a world yet to come. A future in which we could avoid dangers and exploit opportunity. I believe foresight was our great leg up, our great advantage. By looking ahead, we could imagine a future in which we avoid dangers and exploit opportunities, and then we could get to work in the present to try to make sure we achieved that future. In only 150 millennia, we have come to occupy every continent on the planet. And we have become the dominant animal on earth. Just think of our numbers. It took 140,000 years when, just at the beginning of the agricultural revolution, 10,000 years ago, to reach a population of 10 million human beings in the world. That's all there were in all of the planet. But then the agricultural revolution began a massive change in the way we lived. We could grow the food, have a dependable source of food. And in only 8,000 years, we increased by tenfold to about 100 million people around the time that Jesus Christ was born. And then in only 1,800 more years, we reached the first 1 billion people on earth, around 1830. And then in less than 200 years, by the year 2010, we had reached 6.9 billion human beings in the world. If you were to plot that on a graph, you would see that the curve is virtually flat for most of that time. And then in the last pencil width of time, the curve leaps straight up off the page. We have now become the most numerous mammal on the planet. There's a simple rule in biology that the population that a species can achieve is inversely related to the physical size of the animal. In other words, the smaller you are, the more of you there can be. So if you're a species of mouse, there might be tens of millions of you. And that makes sense. You're smaller, you don't need as much food or space or whatever. But as you get bigger and bigger, by the time you get to elephants and whales, then a species can reach maybe in the tens of thousands. Humans are an intermediate size. We're a lot bigger than a mouse, a lot smaller than a whale, but we have become the most numerous mammal on Earth through trade and technology. There are more of us than any other species of mammal on Earth. And just the act of living. Every one of us has to breathe air, drink water, eat food, clothe and shelter ourselves. Just to stay alive, because there are so many of us, we have a very heavy ecological footprint. That is, it takes a lot of air, water, and land just to keep us alive. But of course, we're not like mice or rats or rabbits. We have an enormous amount of technology used on our behalf. Just look around us. I am sure there's no one in this room that is growing a huge field of cotton plants or a flock of sheep in order to get the threads that we can use to make our clothing. Our clothing is delivered to us by a massive amount of technology. And then you think of our cars and our TVs and our computers and all of that stuff and the food that we eat. All of that, just living the way we live. Huge amount of technology that's used on behalf of every one of us. And that amplifies our ecological footprint beyond any other species that has ever existed. But it doesn't end there. Ever since the end of World War II, we've been afflicted with an incredible appetite for stuff. We love to shop. And our consumption is of products. All of that stuff that we buy comes out of the earth, comes out of the biosphere, and when we're finished with it, we'll throw it back into the biosphere, and that increases again our ecological footprint very, very greatly. And we now have a global economy that uses the entire planet as a source of raw materials, the entire planet to dump our toxic emissions and our wastes at the end of our use. And the global economy has become a very destructive agent, I believe, because it hides, it makes invisible the ecological and social costs of delivering all of those goods and products to us. You see, if you go to a store and you want to buy a cotton shirt, I am sure very, very few of us ever say, gee, is that shirt organic? Cotton is one of the most chemically intensive crops that we grow. You only have to look at Central Asia. In the 1950s, the Soviet Union decided to make Central Asia the largest cotton growing area in the world, and they succeeded. But the consequence has been that the area around the Aral Sea, Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, those countries, are an ecological and social disaster. The Aral Sea was once the 4th largest inland body of water. Now it's the 10th largest. Why? Because they've drained the rivers that flow into the sea. Now the sea is a toxic stew of chemicals, and the people are suffering catastrophic consequences of cancer and asthma rates and all kinds of problems induced by the toxicity of the chemicals used to grow cotton. But we don't ask those questions. We just want a cotton shirt. We pay our money and put it on, and off we go. When we buy a car, computer, or television, we don't think, gee, there are a lot of metals in these products. Mining is one of the most destructive activities we undergo. Do we ever ask, gee, where did all the metals come from in that car? Where were they mined? What was the effect on the local ecosystems of those mines? What about the miners? Are they sick as a result? Are they getting a decent wage? What about the communities that depend on that mining? How are they doing? We never ask those questions. We just pay our money, buy the car, and off we go. And yet the very act of buying things in a global economy means that has repercussions that ripple around the planet. When you add these things together, our numbers, our technological muscle power, our consumptive appetite, and our global economy, we have become a new kind of force on this planet. We are altering the physical, chemical, and biological features of the planet on a geological scale. Never has there been a single species able to do what we are now doing on the surface of the planet. Only a few decades ago, we referred to hurricanes, tornadoes, floods, drought, and forest fires as natural disasters or acts of God. But they aren't anymore. The human imprint in these events is very, very clear. These are not natural anymore. Humans have become a part of the cause of these events. We are trying to